should be yourself, King. Should be yourself. And really the greatest thing that you could be is to be yourself.
God created you on purpose for a purpose, and this is the space where you are here to be made from who you was meant to be. And we are grateful for Kevin. This is Kevin's second time of being on the podcast, and I'm super excited to have him on and us discuss the topic of personal development, because we are really big into that and we jive really well on the topic of personal development. So, Kevin, last time I since checked, bro, you've been on over 2,000 episodes, and I think it was like 2,157 or something, and now you're just going and going, and it's just interesting, man, because you have easily done some of the most podcasts I've ever seen, and I want to talk about that, the difficulties and the rewards of being consistent and doing so many podcast episodes. You want to,
Yeah, number one, thanks for having me back, brother. I dig it. You and I have gotten closer since we had the first recording, so I very much appreciate the opportunity always. The interesting thing, and you're a podcaster, so you get it, but the interesting thing about podcasting is I have gotten more out of the podcast than any other human possibly could. Because I'm there before the episode, I'm there during the episode, I'm there after the episode, and then I'm trying to review the episode. So the number one lesson, so as of today, I think I've recorded between our shows and being on other shows like 3,400 episodes or something.
Wow.
So there's been a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
Number one thing, I may even have said this in the first time, from day to day, nothing seems like it changes, but from month to month and year to year, it's impossible to miss. Hopefully, I am better this round than I was the first time. That's the goal. Hopefully, I am better and you are better as a host and a guest. That's number one. The other thing that jumps off the page for me is you are going to make a million mistakes no matter how far you get into the journey. Just like you in real time losing your mic to the mic stand, like you said would happen.
Yeah.
That literally is just par for the course. And the more you do it, the less that stuff affects you. The fact that happened does not bother me at all. It is par for the course. I'm not even going to think about it because that's happened to me 1,000 times. So I think when people see somebody who is quote unquote successful at something, they only see the successes. They don't see the 5,000 mistakes that they made behind the scenes. You only see public successes. You don't really see private failures. And I think my goal and my job is to bring those private failures public so you know you can do it too.
Yeah, so that might fall off if it doesn't occur. But hey, look, it's like what you said, it's part of the journey, and
that's it.
I love to say champions adjust. So, clearly, obviously, you've done thousands of episodes, and you're growing. And you said something where you said, day to day, it doesn't feel like I'm growing. You're growing much, but year to year, it's clear as hell. I think one of the hardest things about life is like, whether you're working a 9 to 5, you're doing some type of business, or you're in a relationship, I feel like life can feel very monotonous. Like you're just doing the same thing every day. And even though we preach consistency, it can feel boring. And I don't know, like it makes me wonder, what does growth look like? Especially because I feel like oftentimes people like me and you we're all about personal growth, but we don't actually, I feel like it's not talked about when we're actually growing, and even though it's clear that we are, like, so, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Well, I think that everybody has a different potential for growth. So I'll be very honest, like my life is relatively boring. I mean, I do the same thing pretty much every day. I went golfing on Sunday, which was nice. I picked up golf. I'm enjoying that. But Monday through Saturday, I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I go to the gym. And then I work 10 hours, 12 hours. It depends. It depends on the day. My life is really boring, but it's also really fulfilling. And I'm somebody who does not require that much fun, unique experience. I don't require that much variety. Mm-hmm. When you are figuring out consistency, You have to figure out, well, what does consistency mean, and how do I become the most consistent version of myself within what I value? So I don't want to go to the coffee shop and work. I have a nice office. I like it here. Maybe you're out there and you need to get out in nature and work. That's different. Maybe instead of going to the gym 6 times a week, you go for a walk outside. That's different. I think consistency is the behavior. The environment is something that you can do to switch it up, but I'm just not that type of person, and it doesn't bother me. You might be somebody who wants to get out more. You want to be around people. I'm very low maintenance when it comes to that. So if we think of consistency as the behavior, I think the environment is where the behavior takes place. And I think those are two very different things that you have a little bit more flexibility in than maybe we give credit to. You don't have to do the same thing every single day in the same way. You do have to move the needle on the same thing every day if you want the result long term.
Gotcha. Yeah, consistency. It's so important, but I feel like for me, something I'm learning is finding variety and consistency, and maybe learning how to do my work in a different way. Like, for example, during the day, I work from home as a pharmacist, and working from home every day can get quote unquote boring. But one way that makes the working super fun is like I get the pleasure of listening to music. You know what I'm saying? So I get to change what kind of music I want to listen to, and I can talk hip hop and R&B all day, and I feel like the variety of the music adds to the variety of the experience. Or even the every day, even when I'm going out for a walk, I love going out for a walk with dogs. Sometimes I have to go out, and instead of walking the same path every day, I might walk to the park, or I might walk to the train station, or I might walk to somewhere else and find a peace of mind and variety in there. So it's interesting, boss.
Well, the behavior is the same, the specifics are different. That's it, right? Most of us don't want to do the same thing in the same way at the same speed every single day. We want some level of variety. It just depends. Some people are just super variety driven, and they want to travel the world, and they want to work while they travel. Like, that ain't me. I'm certainty driven. I like to know where I'm going to be. But I think everything comes down to and starts from a place of self-awareness. The better you know yourself, the better you understand how to design a life that is actually catered to you. And that's a really big piece of personal development, self-improvement, self-help that doesn't get talked about that much. It's very hard to personally develop yourself if you don't know who you are at the start.
Yeah, and that again was part of doing the inner work.
Yes.
And one of the things that I've relearned as I'm on this personal development journey of learning who Ike is and learning who myself is, one of the biggest takeaways I've discovered is in testing what I like and what I don't like, I've been having to discover who I'm not, so to discover who I am. So essentially, like, sometimes I have podcast episodes, and I'm sure you can relate to this because I know you used to have guests on, and like sometimes they're super great. You freaking love the podcast. You're like, man, I'll have this guy all the time. You're one of them. But then other times you have like a podcast episode, and like, for example, sometimes I have real estate investors on, and literally all they talk about is like profit optimization, like nothing else. And like, it's cool that you're a millionaire and you have a lot of money, but there's no soul or like spirit behind the story. And I'm like, all right, I think your story is cool. That's great that you're successful, but I don't want to have you on my podcast again. Yeah. And I feel like that's part of a process of like learning who I am by not learning what I'm not. Can you relate to that, Ross?
For sure. Yeah. So I did a podcast recently, and at the end of it, the host said, "Hey, can you give me any tips?" And I said, "Yeah, whatever. You know me. Ask me all the questions you want. I'm happy to answer all the questions you got." And I answered some questions, and they said, "What does it look like to work with you?" And I was like, "Well, this is what it looks like. This is what we do." Awesome. Cool. They said, "Yeah, I'd love to do it." Cool. I was researching them, and I found that whoever they were paying to help them with their YouTube was buying views for them, and they didn't know it. And I said, "Hey, before you and I do anything together, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I have to be the person who tells you this. Somebody is screwing up your YouTube channel right now." And before I sent that email, I had a conversation with my wife. I said, it would be so much easier if I just lied to them. It would just be so much easier to not be a character-driven person and just lie to them. But I can't do that. I don't, that's not who I want to be. one of the hardest parts of this journey has been, very honestly, like behind the scenes, a lot of the people that we had looked up to are not who we thought they were.
Mm.
And it became abundantly clear pretty early that that is the type of person I do not want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the same right now when we're recording as I am when we get off, and as I was before. And if you emailed me, I want to be the same. That's really, really my goal. One of the reasons I'm so inspired and motivated to be that is because a lot of the people I hoped were that were not that. So unfortunately, the reason you want to be the best version of you, or the ways you want to be the best version of you, are probably because you've learned through pain that the opposite is not an option.
Yeah.
I relate to that a ton, to a very deep, painful, sad level where so much of what I used to look up to, I don't even look at anymore, because the truth has been revealed in time, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and so it's just interesting that you told the story of someone faking their views, and I'm sure you come across that often, and it's clear as day on YouTube, and you can tell someone about their views because they'll have like thousands of views, but like 5 comments or something, and it's like, all right, man, like that's like what's going on, boss? What's going on with that? And so it's interesting, as you grow and you become better at your skill and your craft, you meet you've been able to meet incredible guests, and I believe one of them was like Evan Carmichael. Evan Carmichael. I think he was one of your bigger guests, and I'm curious because you mentioned like that some of these people weren't like necessarily as great as you thought would be. Was there a specific time or person that made you feel like, man, like you might have had one expectation of what it was going to be, and then it just came out to be like something completely different?
There's been a lot of those. There's been a lot of. So I will say this: Evan has become a friend.
Awesome.
And I've been invited up to speak to Evan's group in Toronto, and I got the opportunity to spend some time with Evan. Evan is as good behind the scenes as you think. He's a great dude. Mm. So Evan, on the other end, when I spent time with him, it was like inspirational. Yeah. He just loves people. Loves people. He's a people person. He wants to add value. So when I got to spend time with him, it was the opposite, where it was like, oh my goodness, you're just a really good human. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But on the other end, there were a lot of people that I don't want to name any names, because I don't want to call anybody out. Yeah. But there is somebody that's very big right now in the fitness and nutrition space.
Okay.
And they're on all the big podcasts, and they're super successful, and everybody knows who they are. We did an interview with them, and we didn't even drop the episode. We recorded the whole episode.
Okay.
And at the end of it, they were just so arrogant after the way they were talking after the interview. It was just like, you are not the same person I just saw for the previous 60 minutes. We deleted the episode. We canned it. We didn't even release it.
Wow.
After that, we had another big guest. Millions of followers. Very big guest.
Yeah.
And I came across a piece of their content, and it essentially said, if something is meant for you, you can't screw it up. And I remember thinking, I understand what you're trying to say with that piece of content, but that I don't want to put that type of content out there. That's not going to help you. Mm-hmm. That's like me saying, oh, you know what? I screwed up today's interview. I showed up late. I was hungover. I wasn't prepared. Well, it wasn't meant for me anyway. It wasn't meant for me to meet Ike. That's a cop-out. I don't believe that at all. Yeah. I think that's an easy way to relieve yourself of responsibility that you don't want to handle. Alan and I texted Alan that day, and I said, hey man, I can't do this interview with this guy. It's not aligned. I don't want to promote this. This is not real. And Alan said, dude, same. That was the last time we ever booked a guest. That was it. After that, we said, we're going to do this by ourselves, and we're not going to book guests anymore. So there were a couple inflection points. Evan Carmichael, meeting Evan was wonderful. He's a great dude. That lifted my spirits. And there have been some other people that have been like really good people. And there have been some other people that it's like, you are completely different than I thought, and you're essentially just acting. You're just playing a part, and behind the scenes, you're completely different. So there have been several inflection points on this journey for sure. Yeah,
and then from that point, I've noticed you guys have done thousands of solo episodes between you two, and don't have any guests. And And I always thought that was very interesting because I don't know many podcasters who do that. Or obviously, if they have done it, like it maybe lasted like 10 episodes. You know how most podcasts are.
Yeah.
And so you you took that road, and I felt like instead of focusing on just growing the podcast and reaching everybody, y'all took the opposite approach of just really focusing on your core audience and focusing on the depth of the relationship between you and Alan and your core audience. Can you speak towards why y'all were so intentional about doing that and how has that benefited y'all instead of like just developing like a super massive audience, which like most people like are like fantasize about, you know?
Well, because one, I feel like I mean, we really want to help people,
Yeah.
and there's two ways to do that. One way is to make people feel good. So we could produce very easy to digest content that's really not going to help you, but it's going to make you feel good. Versus making content that is just going to appeal to far less people, but it's going to help them at a level of depth. I really want to help people. So that by definition, we are not going to have the most successful podcast. I mean, I think in the long run we can in terms of how much we've impacted people. It was number one, I actually want to facilitate change, and change requires resistance, and resistance is uncomfortable. So we're never going to be the show that you always feel good listening to. The second thing is, honestly, this has hurt us in a lot of ways. Not having guests on when we can have really high level guests, that slowed our growth down a ton in terms of like growing the podcast. Our business has grown a ton since we're doing solo episodes, but our podcast, it's slowed down in terms of growth based on the way that we're doing it. So there's a big downside with that. But I think the upside to your point is we've gotten to know our audience at a really deep level. I feel really comfortable just being myself on our podcast and just having conversations about what we're going through. It's easy. It's not easy. It's easier to just say, okay, this is what I learned this week. I want to share it with the audience. I think in the beginning, we all want to be like the big thing. Maybe it's from an ego perspective. And I had that for sure in the beginning.
Yeah.
But right? But I think as the ego perspective wore off and it was like, all right, we got to 1 million listens. We made $1 million in the business. I never thought we were going to get there. That's way further than I thought. I really want to do this the way I want to do it. I really want to do this the way I want to do it. And I want to do it the way Alan wants to do it. And we're going to do it the way we want to do it together. So the benefits are I get to be myself. I get to talk about what I think is actually impactful and meaningful. And I think the biggest upside is the listeners are on a journey with us. If I have somebody on the podcast, I don't know how they got to how they got to. I can't guarantee it. I don't know. I can guarantee I know how we got to where we got to. And I want the journey for the listeners to be as personal as it is for us. So yeah, it's way more about adding value than it is about being famous or whatever. I mean, it helps as a podcast to have a big audience and a lot of episodes, but I just want to make sure I can be me. I think at the end of the day, that's the most important.
Yeah, that's interesting, man, that you said that, because for me personally, I am still having guests on a weekly basis, and I greatly enjoy having guests. But when I first started this podcast, it was very ego driven, where I'm like, I'm gonna be like the next Joe Rogan. I'm gonna have the biggest and like most well-known guests on my platform, and even though this is still part of me that wants to do that, the more episodes that I do, the less I kind of start to care about that, because I realize after having, just like you, I had some incredible guests on, it's kind of like at the end of the day, they're still a human being and it's just another person. Like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't really change the dynamic of who you are. And if anything, I've had just as great conversations or even better connections with people who weren't even that big. And for me, that's when I started to have less of a desire to like just be like that guy. And I love what you said about just having more of a desire to be myself. So I'm now being more intentional about attracting guests who will put me in a position to simply be myself. And if I can do that, I'm going to attract other guests like you who will, and the conversation, not only would the conversations be better, but I think the audience will be a lot more engaged and can feel that connection.
Well, to your point, the host has to be there for the right reason, and the guest has to be there for a right reason. I'm not here to sell anything. I don't care if we talk about any of the stuff where I don't care. I want to add value. So
Yeah.
And you want to add value. And I would come on this podcast every month for the rest of time. I don't really care how big your audience is. My wife, I'm sure she overhears me at times, but occasionally I'll get off a podcast and be like, what an awesome human. Like, what a great human being that was. That was awesome. I will also get off certain things where I say that was a giant waste of my effing time.
Yeah.
What am I even doing? Why am I? But I'll tell you one thing. More often than not, it's what an amazing human.
Same.
More often than not, and more often than not, when I say that's an amazing human, they have a very small podcast and they're very new. I just think they're cool people.
Yeah, same.
I just want to have cool conversations with cool people.
Same.
I've been on big shows and sometimes they suck and sometimes it's just, I've been on a podcast where the host literally said, I don't care about my audience. Just so you know, I just want to sell stuff. It's like, I don't need to be here. I don't need to be here, but I want to be with you. I want to add real value. And I think that comes through.
Man. No, for sure, man. And one thing that my principal or headmaster in high school always said to me that has stood out from the test of time. It's been like 10 years since I've been in high school, maybe even more. And he always said the essence of life is in relationships. And for me, that has really stuck to my core. And I really realized that the deeper and the more authentic your relationships are with people, like, I believe the greater quality of your life is. Maybe whether that's with your friend Alan or with your wife or your parents. I really feel like relationships is what make life so great. So, thank you for talking about that and sharing your perspective on that. I wanted to dive into something where this is kind of a little touchy, but I know you and Alan are been cool. But Alan came on the podcast, and you know how he is. He's very business oriented and optimized and all about numbers. And we talked about you a little bit, and he said, and I was like, oh, so like, how's your? We touched on the topic of friendship and something, and then I asked him like, oh, like, how's your friendship with? Would you consider Kevin a friend? And he's like, no, I'm not. I wouldn't consider him a friend. He's a business partner. And for me, I was like, what the hell? I mean, like, I like that kind of threw me off because y'all have literally done thousands of episodes and y'all have put in so much work together. But he said it cold as hell. Like, nah, dude, this guy's just a business partner. Don't get. And then he also said like, oh, we only meet like once a year, which was interesting. I thought y'all would meet a lot, So I'm just curious. What are your thoughts on that? I'm sure you don't take it. You're laughing, I'm sure you're not taking it offensive,
It's I think it's important to understand. Yeah, Alan and I would not be friends if we weren't business partners.
Yeah,
because it's core values, it's core beliefs, and it's core aspirations. The reason we're so close is because we have very similar core values. We believe personal development can change the world. We have very similar core beliefs of you do not deserve anything beyond what you deserve, what you earn. Right? That's my belief. I should not be more successful than I am. I haven't earned it yet. That just is the case for me. And then core aspirations. We genuinely want to bring personal development to as many people as possible and impact the world. Those three things are the reasons that we are as close as we are today. So we would not talk to each other at all if it wasn't for the podcast. Alan doesn't really have many friends. He's here. His belief, and it makes sense, and I believe it, is he was put on this earth to change it.
Yeah.
I get to have more friends than Alan does because my level of obsession with maximizing my potential is just less than his.
Yeah.
I still work really hard and I'm very consistent and, all of that, but it's different. So that is a fact. We see each other twice a year in person. We have a foundation that we do for children of single parents. So we see each other twice a year for that. And then outside of that, we are recording episodes. I mean, we talk, but we don't talk about, I don't text Alan and say, hey man, how's your day going? That doesn't happen. Or I don't text him on Sunday and say, hey man, what are you up to this weekend? Like none of that happens. And I love Alan. He was at my wedding. He's my brother.
Yeah.
All of that. But, and this is the last thing I'll say, our relationship is a byproduct of something much bigger. With a lot of other people, their relationship is the reason they have the relationship.
Yeah.
That's just not it with us. Our relationship is based on the impact that we want to have and the men we aspire to be. So it's a byproduct of it. That's a piece of it. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I've always found your relationship like very unique and unlike many other people. And you know, when you study relationships, I feel like there's two ways you can connect with people. You can connect either through vulnerability or ambition. And I feel like most people connect through vulnerability, where they share things that are like, oh, like I didn't know you're like this, or I didn't know like you're that. And that really connects people. I feel like you two are connecting over ambition. Like there's a goal, and we really want to strive towards that, which I think is a beautiful thing. When we talk about that goal, because I know Alan spoke about it to an extent, I'm curious, what does that vision of personal development look like for you? I know y'all are talking about you want to have the biggest personal development company in the world. I think at least that's what Alan said. I don't want to speak for you, but that sounded like a great goal. Can you speak more about that in depth and why that's so important for y'all?
I'll be very honest. Alan has way more of the vision than I do.
Okay.
So this is one of the reasons our relationship works. I am humble enough to say that I need Alan to get to where I want. He is vulnerable and courageous enough to tell me he doesn't need me. That's why our relationship works. Alan was going to be successful with or without me, for sure. Yeah. That's just the type of person he is. Would he have been as successful in the same way, in the same direction? Maybe not. No, by definition. I was kind of in trouble if I didn't meet Alan. I was doing okay. I was making six figures, but I was suicidal. I was in trouble. I'm humble enough to say my main goal is to make sure that I keep up with Alan to the degree I can. He's an extraordinary human. He's hard to keep up with. And we keep each other in check when it comes to character. We keep each other in check when it comes to not being toxic. We keep each other in check when it comes to not being disrespectful. So that's one of the reasons our relationship works, is because we both realize that together we're better, but we also have to be humble enough and honest enough to admit what our strengths are and what our weaknesses are. The ultimate goal, is to have the most successful personal development company in terms of impact in the world. Am I going to have the most followers on social media? No. Are we ever going to get to the place where we have like Joe Rogan level listens? No, that's not going to happen. Are we going to get to Mr. Beast level YouTube views? No, that's not going to happen. But we can have a level of impact through depth based on our work ethic, based on our communication, based on our consistency that I don't think anybody else can really have. And the reason it's so important is because I believe that is the root cause of almost every problem. Lack of self-awareness and lack of one's own desire and or capability to work on themselves. Fulfilled, whole people on a passionate journey towards their own evolution don't go out and hurt other people. They don't shoplift. They don't rob banks. They don't hurt people. They don't commit crimes usually. Like very fulfilled people on a mission are usually on the higher end of character and the higher end of behavior. So I think so much of the problems in the world are based on that. Would I have been raised better if my family was into personal development? Yes, for sure. Of course. The only reason I would probably make even a reasonable parent is because of all the work I've done on myself. I think it's just a perpetual thing. So yeah, I believe that if everybody in the world just tried to get a little bit better, everything in the world would get a little bit better. And that is my belief. Now, are we ever going to impact everybody in the world? No, it's not going to work that way. But if I lead by example and I show up and I try to be consistent and I try to connect the dots, and I think we can help a lot of people. And the last thing, if I say something in today's episode that inspires you, and then you go say that to 5 people, and those 5 people tell 5 people, and those 5 people tell 5 more people, you just helped hundreds of people by just helping one person. That is the importance of it. When you help somebody at a level of depth that they never forget, they help people with that depth. And it's not about getting credit for it. It's about the fact that impact happened. That's how you do it. You gotta help 5 people who help 5 people. That's how you change the world.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think that's incredibly selfless. Talking about impacting people, I want to actually speak to a way that you and Alan have personally impacted me. Because I was part of one of your podcasting groups, and y'all had a great lesson on the art of self-assigning and the concept of that. And for me, that actually really changed my perspective and renewed my mind on what it means to really celebrate yourself and acknowledge your growth. And essentially, for those who don't know, self-assigning is when you are working on a skill or doing something, and after you complete that goal or skill or whatever task it was, you literally take time to say, hey, this is who I am now. Maybe if you maybe if you never became a podcaster, and you did 10 podcasts in a row, you take away the imposter syndrome and be like, hey, I am a podcaster.
Mhm.
Or the same thing with DJing. Like, I because I DJ too on from time to time. If you never DJed before, and you might be scared to put yourself out in the public, once you start, maybe even if you're just doing it at home and practicing at home, hey, like once you do it consistently, or you've done a gig, or even done it on YouTube, you are a DJ. And I really appreciated that lesson on self-assigning yourself and being like, hey, this is who I am, this is who I'm becoming, and celebrating that. Because I think that I would do that subconsciously, but I would never do it intentionally. Like, hey, like this is a part of who I am, and it's a habit I've picked up, and I'm grateful for that.
I appreciate you appreciating us. I appreciate
Yeah.
you appreciating us. It's a lot of people want to build self-belief. Self-belief, 3 steps. State you're going to do something, prove to yourself that you're actually capable of doing it, and then the one I just said, self-assign. What happens for a lot of us is we don't say we're going to do it. So when we get a result, we just think we got lucky. It's very hard to self-assign luck. We say we're going to do it and then we don't do it, and we let ourselves down, and that's how you fall into kind of the doom loop of just feeling stuck. Or you say you're going to do it, you prove to yourself that you're capable of doing it, but you never give yourself credit.
Yeah.
You got to have the whole 3-part cycle. And to your point, we often talk about the unsexy fundamentals of self-improvement, personal development. One of them is start very small.
Yeah.
So what's a good example? Okay, cool. How do you learn how to ride a bike? You put training wheels on. You state, I'm going to get on that bike and I'm not going to fall off. You prove to yourself that you're capable of doing it, and then you self-assign, oh, that went better than expected. You do that enough times. Boom, boom, boom. Eventually, you state, I'm going to take the training wheels off. I'm going to prove to myself that I can try to do it by riding on the grass, and then I'm going to self-assign that I tried that. Rinse and repeat that. You do that when you get your first job. You do that when you learn to drive a car. You do that forever, essentially, and that's the way to build belief. So if I have any more belief than you do in podcasting, it's just because I've stated, proved, and self-assigned more times than you. Just like as a pharmacist, if you have any more belief in what you do, which you do, because I've never done it, you have stated, proved, and self-assigned that you're capable of it. That's it. And this is why it's so important to take action. Even if it's imperfect, messy, it doesn't actually work action, because you can state that you're going to do it, prove to yourself that you're going to do it, and self-assign that. Nowhere in that formula does it say you have to do it right.
Yes.
You don't have to do it right. You just have to do it to begin with. That's how everything starts.
Yeah, and in taking action, that's when a lot of clarity starts to take place. Because I think we all can relate to whether you're starting a business, you're starting a passion project, you're starting some type of new activity. It's always to begin with, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Of course.
It's always like, what the fuck am I doing? I have no idea. And then it's usually, like you said, the small steps and taking those action. That's when more clarity starts to come, you know what I'm saying? And you might do something, and like I was talking about, you might not like what you did, and then you go, well, I'm never going to do that again. And then you might come across something else that you love to do, and and I feel like the answers start to slowly reveal yourself. So I think it's a great point about action, and we're always growing too. I think it's also important, in addition to talking about self-assigning, that each day we're always growing, and something that we might have liked a couple years ago might have changed. You know what I'm saying? And acknowledging that too is an important part of growth.
Of course. Well,
Yeah.
you're not always going to value the things that you value today at the same level, right? I used to love playing PlayStation. Like that doesn't. I literally the other day or yesterday, my PlayStation Plus subscription renewed, so $80 or whatever, and I literally emailed them and said, "Hey, can I cancel this? I'm not going to use it. I don't really play PlayStation anymore. I don't have anything against it. If you're a gamer out there,
it's just not for me.
It's just I don't have time. I'll reframe. It's not enough of a priority for me to actually do. I'd rather go golfing now. I'd rather do that. I'd rather spend time with my wife. I'd rather be podcasting. I'd rather watch a movie or something on YouTube, right? So yeah, I think that's a really good point. You have to give yourself the permission to change. It doesn't make you a hypocrite because you changed. You're a person. And when you get new information or new feedback or new perspective or new knowledge, the only wrong thing to do is not look at things from a different light.
Well, and it's a beautiful thing that we all grow, because I feel like if we were all stuck in our old ways, I don't know, I feel like life would be very depressing, man. I know for me, one of the habits that I stopped when I was younger, but I think most men can relate to this, is like, man, I used to just be chasing a lot of women, you know. I used to be out and about in college, going out, trying to go every weekend. Me and my boys would go to a party and we'll hope to get some girls, you know. And if we weren't successful, we would be like down, like, oh man, like what the hell, like, you know. Now fast forward 6, 7, 8 years later, like I don't really care for that, and it's not really a part of who I am. And I'm not saying anyone who's doing that's for you. That's cool. If you want to play video games or if you want to chase women all day, hey, that's for you. But I think that's part of that growth, and that's okay, man. So I'm also curious, man, like as podcasters, because I feel like we're pretty much talking about the art of podcasting and growth through podcasting. What is a common pet peeve that you have in the podcasting industry? Because you've done thousands. Like, what are the little things that go unsaid where you're like, what the fuck, dude? Like you know,
some of the biggest shows on the planet are just not vetting their guests. Like some of the biggest shows on the planet are having people on that are just lying. They're just there's just no data to back up the claims that they're making, and they're all selling something. It's like, oh, if you take this thing, it's going to make this happen for you. It's like none of that is really true.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of podcasters don't take responsibility for their content. You know who the Liver King is?
Yeah, I'm familiar with him. Yeah.
Anybody who had him on their podcast and didn't like suggest that he might be on performance enhancing drugs, like that is just there has to be a level of responsibility for the content you make. And a lot of people, some of the biggest shows in the world they have sponsorships that aren't real. They don't do the research. Like this is a big issue. This is a really big issue, and I think it's going to get worse.
Yeah, and I do agree it's an issue. Now, usually, like the relationship between a podcast guest and a host is like, you know, the guy who come on is a quote unquote expert, whatever that means. Yep. Like the person's a quote unquote expert. And I feel like the dynamic behind it is sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So someone could come in and just easily BS. And then you might realize after the podcast, like, oh, this guy was lying. Or even during the podcast, you might be able to hear the lie. And I think calling someone out on the bullshit requires a lot of courage. And that's a skill in itself, too, because you want to speak the truth without necessarily making the person feel like he can't be himself. You know, have you come across that? And if so, like, how do how do we navigate that, or do we navigate? It's kind of it's like a tricky plan.
It is. Very honestly and vulnerably, I didn't have the courage to disagree with guests.
Yeah.
I didn't have the we had a guest on one time who she was talking about how when she got into alignment, she manifested weight loss. And I remember thinking the reason you manifested weight loss is because you stopped binge drinking and eating fast food when you were drunk. That's what happened. Yeah. As somebody who's been into fitness, and I used to be a personal trainer and I've studied nutrition, it's not, but I didn't have the courage to push back on that. And I should have. I should have, because that was not giving the audience the actual truth. Yeah. Right? Now, does the guest, are they intending on being misleading? Not always. I don't think they were. They're a sweet person. They weren't saying like, I'm going to mislead. That's not what they were doing. But it just fits what they've studied, and it fits their
beliefs.
brand. It fits their brand, so that makes sense that they would go in that direction. That's on me as a host. I should have had more courage. I just didn't. So, one, you do a lot of prep work. As I said, we were going to have this massive guest on. I did prep work. No, that's not going to be it. That's one part. I think the other part is you ask questions. So, right? I could have asked, hey, I don't mean to be that guy, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but is there anything else that you changed in your life that may have led to that result? Because I want to give the audience as much value as possible, and saying I manifested it by getting an alignment isn't necessarily going to help anybody. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But that's on me. I didn't have the courage to do it. So you have to be courageous, and you have to do your prep work. And I think sometimes if you're just be curious about what they say.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with curiosity. It doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean you don't believe them. If you're genuinely curious, keep digging.
Yeah. That's a good point. I've had a lot of guests on, and I would say I'm a pretty agreeable guy. So sometimes having the courage to say like, hey, man, I don't think that's true. Something I feel like I can work on too. But I do think childlike curiosity allows you to frame that disagreement in a way that isn't like pushing you back. So yeah, man, that's a good point, boss. That's a good point, man. And so currently, man, you are working on Next Level University, and it's growing, and y'all have been consistent and disciplined, and I really admire how hard y'all work towards impacting people, not just on a superficial level of like making us feel good, but really trying to teach the world what self-growth looked like. What would you say personally has been the most difficult part about this journey, about podcasting for over 1,000 episodes and just doing everything day in and day out? Because I know you all have so much going on. It's not even just a podcast. You all have a business behind it too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I would say that the hardest thing is how this journey affects other people, honestly. I mean, I'm okay with working long hours. I'm okay with getting up early. I'm okay with grinding. I have a good relationship with that. But there are some things where I've let a lot of friends go because it's just, I don't really have, it's not a priority to spend time with certain people anymore. That kind of sucks. I can imagine it's hard. It's probably really hard being married to me. I mean, I can imagine I work a lot, and I have to say no to things that other people don't necessarily have to say no to. And I'm working on that. I'm trying to figure that out. I'm trying to, I want to be the best husband I can be.
Yeah.
That's a juggling act for sure. So I think for me, it's probably more about how my growth and how my goals affect other people than they do me, because I'm the one who signed up for it. And not everybody around me signed up for what this is going to take, because they couldn't possibly know, because I didn't know what it was going to take. So it's not like I could describe it. I think that's probably the hardest thing. I have a very small circle. There's very, very few people who I have real deep relationships with, just because I don't want to invest the time into something that I'm not going to be able to sustain. That's a really important thing. It's like, I don't think you're local to me anymore, but I think you were local in the Massachusetts area. If you lived here, it's not like I wouldn't love to get dinner. I'd love that. I just wouldn't like to let you down when you text me in a month and ask me to do it again and I say no. That's the thing that it's really hard to do that. It's really hard to build a meaningful relationship. And then when you say, hey man, I'm going to be in town, you want to grab dinner? It's like, I can't, I don't have, I get one free dinner a week. Right.
Yeah.
And there's other stuff going on. It's really hard to do that. So that's probably the biggest thing I would say.
Interesting, man. So you would say like the cost of such fulfilling work comes at the cost of relationships and having the time to spend time with others, essentially. Man,
it's not even the cost of it for me. It's more the fact that I just don't want to let people down. I'm cool with being solo. I have my wife. I have Alan. We have a great team. I have one really close friend outside of Alan. Like, I'm good with friends. I'm good. I feel really good. It's more the fact that when I spend, like when my wife and I spend time with another couple, I am the bottleneck. I'm going to be the reason. If you want to see us more, I'm most likely going to be the reason you don't. And it's hard to know that other people are probably frustrated with you like all the time. That part sucks. So I think about it more from
their perspective.
Their perspective. I'm
good.
Because
you're cool.
Fine.
Yeah, you're cool.
I'm fine. But I understand people value friendships. It's like, I'm not, this is really hard to say because it sounds cold. I'm not the guy to call in the middle of the week.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy that's going to help you move your furniture. I'm not that guy. I can't be. I can't be that guy. I used to want to be that guy. I used to be that guy. I just can't be that guy and do what I'm trying to do in the world at the same time. I just can't.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I do think it's a truth that can be hard to bear. Like if I was, because I used to be in Massachusetts too, man. Yeah, man. If I knew you back then, man, I definitely would have been hitting you up and, yo, Kevin, what are you doing? But I guess that's not where you are in life, and I think that's one of the important things of, again, going back to self-awareness and knowing what you're not and who you're not. Because even if you did accept my invitation, right, to like hang out with me, there may be a quiet resentment towards maybe yourself that you might start projecting onto me, because you're like, man, I don't even really want to be here. You know what I'm saying? And then you might have to keep carrying that unconscious burden, or maybe conscious burden, onto yourself. And then maybe one day you're like, it might just explode. So I see what you're talking about, but you just can't even sustain it, even if you wanted to.
Yeah, so did we talk about how I met my dad when I was 27
No,
last time?
No.
I grew up without my dad. I didn't know my dad. I didn't know who my dad was really. Like, I didn't understand who he was. I didn't know what he looked like. I had spent time with him when I was young, but not to my recollection. I met him when I was 27.
For the first time?
For the first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for the first time with me understanding he was my dad.
Okay.
And it went well. I had forgiven him. I had a lot of empathy. Things made sense. It was like, okay, I feel like that was an important chapter, and I have a lot of closure.
Yeah.
I think I saw him like 3 or 4 times after. And it just got to the point where I realized it was never going to be the relationship that he wanted. So I essentially just let the relationship die. He would call me at Wednesday at noon, and then he would be frustrated with me that I didn't answer the phone. Dad, I run a business. There's stuff going on. I can't answer the phone at noon. I'm on a podcast. What do you want me to do? It got to the point where I realized even that relationship, I would be doing him more damage by him feeling like he was being led on, by him thinking this is ever going to be a quote-unquote normal relationship. That's the level of understanding I'm trying to have. It was never going to be what he thought. There's no way it ever could be. I'd rather just not have it than have the person frustrated all the time with me. That's it. But that's the hard. It's either that or you have to be really good at setting boundaries. Really freaking good. So, hey, Ike, I'd love to come to dinner. I enjoy it very much. Let's do it. Just a heads up, this isn't something I can do super often just because the way my schedule is. I just want to let you know that right off the bat. That sounds arrogant maybe, or so you got to take the good with the bad when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. Bringing up your dad is very interesting, because I would feel like most people would feel like obligated to respond to their dad, even if they didn't want to or whatnot. But damn, when you talk about setting boundaries, me personally, I'm an African son. I couldn't set those boundaries on my dad. But it's also different. I can't relate to you because I've had the pleasure of knowing my dad for all my life. So I know it's different, man. And that's why, like, I don't know, man, when it comes to advice, man, like, and giving advice, you start to realize how nuanced advice can be, because, my parents and my background, Nigerians, we would talk about the importance of family and just and prioritizing that. And I know a lot of people in my culture would say, like, man, it doesn't matter. You need to be with your dad no matter what. But it's like, I don't know if that would be fair for you to like take in. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? And it's interesting, man. I feel like that's what makes life so much more harder, to be honest, Kevin. I feel like there's just so much advice. There's advice from billionaire gurus. Then you have your fitness gurus. Then you have your parents telling you like what to do. Then you got like random people on TikTok and social media now just like telling you what to do. And it's just like, man, what should I eat? Should I be vegan? Should I be high protein? This is like an overwhelming amount of information, man. And I don't know, man. I don't know how we I don't know, dealing with that. It feels like a surplus, and like in a way it has its pros and cons because we have so much information, but it also feels like a, I don't know, sometimes it feels like a curse too, and it can yeah.
I as somebody who gives advice on the internet for a living, it's very challenging, and you almost always have to understand that when I am giving a very specific piece of advice, it is for like very few people.
Yeah.
Right? Again, I'll kick it back to Evan Carmichael. When he's giving advice to someone, is it him? I think it's Evan that says this. He says, if I was in your skin, meaning if I was you with your experiences, with your circumstances, where you are in life, with your decision-making paradigm, this is what I would do. And I've always liked that framing because it's suggesting I'm not telling you what I would do.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what, based on all I would do if I was you. And I think those are two very, very different perspectives. But yeah, to your point, I don't know what it's like to be from an African family. I have no clue what it's like to have the belief of family is the most important thing passed down from generation to generation. That's not the way I was raised, right? So don't know. It's almost never, the advice you hear is almost never for you.
Yeah.
100%. It's always a spectrum.
Yeah.
Right? So there are some of you watching or listening to this that need to work way more to accomplish your goals. Mm-hmm. That's going to hit like 10% of you. There are some of you out there that need to spend some time with your family, and you need to get out in nature, and you need to do something fulfilling. You need to like get out and take a break. That's like another 10%. Mm-hmm. But that is the way it is. Everybody is so different that none of the advice. That's why, like, for a long time, and this is like new awareness for me. You know how a lot of people are like, oh, the hustle culture, that's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad for some people, yes.
Yeah.
100%. Just like the manifestation community is bad for some people. Mm-hmm. Just like the extreme ownership community is bad for some people.
Yeah.
It all depends on who you are and where you are. And that, to your point, is what makes all of this so nuanced.
Yeah.
If I don't know exactly what you're going through, I can't tell you. I shouldn't tell you anyway. I can't give you feedback on what would be best. It's just really hard to know.
Yeah, I agree. And hence why I stopped the habit of giving unsolicited advice. I've noticed that oftentimes people aren't really seeking advice unless they literally say, "Hey, Ike, what do you think I should do?" or like, or whatnot. Because once you give that unsolicited advice, it feels like you're trying to fix somebody, even if your intentions are truly good. And I've noticed that whenever I do give unsolicited advice, 9 times out of 10 the person doesn't even take it. So you know what I'm saying? So it's like, all right, man, like what are we doing here, man? And hence, man, when I'm having these conversations, even though I do ask a lot of questions, I want to frame these podcast episodes more as a exploration and it's less of like an interview expertise thing, because I think that's what makes it a lot more relatable and gives people an opportunity to maybe see a piece of each other, you know, instead of like, oh, this is what you got to do. Because even it's weird, man, because these people, these gurus, they speak with the utmost authority and confidence too. So you kind of feel like, oh man, like he's so confident, like, you know, this is what I need to do to make $1 million. Like, oh, okay, you just gotta do X, Y, and Z. But most of the time, if you start to realize, kind of have that level of awareness of yourself, most of these really successful people aren't necessarily talking about their success in conjunction to where you're at. You know what I'm saying? It's really kind of like they're just talking about like the present moment, and like it's hard for most people, you know what I'm saying? But there's a dissonance, and you kind of have to realize like, hey, I'm not there. I don't own 100 properties. I only own 2 properties. That's literally me. So if I'm listening to you talk about like how to scale real estate, like I can't relate. Maybe I gotta listen to the guy who literally just has like 4 or 5 properties. Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure you could understand in your line of business too.
I think the fundamentals and the principles are always more powerful than the specifics.
Yeah.
It's always the okay, what is the fundamental or the principle about going from 2 doors to 4 doors.
Yeah.
Well, you got to delegate and you got to make sure you prioritize. Awesome. Great. And then there's a bunch of very specific things that aren't necessarily going to relate to you yet. Yeah, that is one of the hardest things is some of the best advice ever is the least sexy advice.
Yeah.
That's it. I go on podcasts about podcasts and like, what's the one thing? There isn't one. What do you want me to tell you? There isn't one. Consistency, yes, but consistency without improvement is just the reps. That's not it. It's a little bit of everything all together for long enough. And where you are today is drastically different than where I am. So the advice I need is very different than it is, man. It's so freaking hard. And what makes it even more of a wild card is going back to what we talked about earlier, a lot of these people don't even actually have the results they're telling you they have. So it's like,
which is true.
Their advice, they don't even know how to do it. So they're just giving you advice, and it's weird. It's a weird time, man.
Yeah, it's a very weird time, especially for me. I know in the real estate industry, it's very common for people who are real estate gurus to make more money from marketing courses than actually the real estate. And that's a whole nother conversation, and we don't have to go about that. But we're talking about advice and receiving advice. And I know in 2019, I read one of your posts that 2019 was one of the most difficult years for you. First of all, what made that year so difficult personally? And if you had to give yourself advice, what would 2019 Kevin need advice be for him? You know,
pain made 2019 one of the hardest years of my life for sure, and being just absolutely broke. I had left my job in 2018 to do this full time. I burned through all of my savings. I had $10,000 in savings. I thought I was going to get further than it did. It didn't. And then I just lived off credit cards. Alan and I were investing in the business. We were traveling to events. We were taking courses. We were learning. So in 2019, I was $30,000 in credit card debt. Didn't have any way really of making money. We just kind of started coaching. I couldn't afford to pay rent when I moved in with my now wife. I couldn't buy Christmas presents for her that year. I mean, 2019 was, and the hard thing is I was grinding. I mean, I was working really, really hard on trying to grow this and trying to build this. I remember I was trying to there was a client that I wanted to work with, and they're like, when can you do coaching calls? Can you do them at 7:30 a.m. on a Saturday? I was like, absolutely. I'll do it whenever you want me to do it. I'll do it. Like, it was just, I'm out here grinding. Yeah. It was a level of scarcity that I hadn't faced that level of scarcity in it had never been that bad where my car, I couldn't afford to pay my car insurance, so I got sent to collections, like a collections agency. My car was breaking down and stalling at red lights. It would just shut off.
Wow.
I couldn't afford to get it fixed. It was a time of just being as broke as I had ever been, and questioning whether or not I was actually going to be able to do this. Is my girlfriend going to end up being my wife because I seem like such a loser? Like all of that. That is just so much self.
Yeah. It's funny. It's easier said than done, but
of course.
Yeah, but it's just interesting because 2019 wasn't. If you think about it, it wasn't even that long ago. It was like 6-7 years ago, and yeah, it seems like you're in a state of survival mode and desperation and just trying to figure things out. And I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of the world isn't that. We're stuck in that mentality where it's just like people aren't even really thinking about how to thrive or grow. Like we have the blessings to at least, like, you know, we can do that or explore. I feel like a lot of people are in that state of struggle, and I don't know, man. Sometimes I feel for people like that, but I guess this is what the work you're doing, and part of my podcast is to help raise that awareness of how to become a better person, so we don't necessarily have to be in that survival mode, you know.
Well, it's hard because that's the thing is, if there's somebody out there that's like really, really struggling, I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah,
I don't know. Learn a new skill. It's nothing most likely is going to change today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know if it really can. Learn a new skill, get into a season of like extra work that you've never done before.
Yeah.
You know, that I don't, but it's very hard to see where somebody, to zoom all the
I
way
know
in.
exactly what you mean.
You know, it's I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
What do you do?
And it's weird, man. And that's why, like, when it comes to giving advice, I want to frame away from that. But I do know that, like, one thing that I'm sure who really helped you is like Alan, you know. And I feel like whether or not, when it comes to achieving success and becoming the best version of yourself, one thing I can confidently say is you can't do it alone. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure Alan played a big role in you getting out of that sense of desperation. You know, do you want to speak more towards in depth about how another person uplifted you? Because I do feel like whether it's your wife, a great friend, a business partner, there's always someone who can put you in a much better position. You feel me?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Alan was the person I reached out to when I was sitting on the edge of a bed contemplating suicide. So, and he's been my mentor since him and I reconnected. We went to middle school together, we went to high school together, we had a falling out, and then we reconnected in our mid 20s. And it's just been a really deep journey of growth and self-awareness, and I'm lucky where he's just way ahead when it comes to self-improvement. He knows. He recommended all the books. Like, he knows the books. He's seen the TED Talks. He's obsessed with maximizing his potential. So he's become kind of a repertoire of self-improvement. I can go to him and say, hey, I want to learn about this. Where do I go? Yeah. So it's essentially like I have my own little personal Google where I can say, hey, what do I do for this? It's the best. It's the best. And our relationship is so rare that, I mean, so many things had to line up. We went to the same school. We were friends when we were younger. Like, so many things. He wanted to have a YouTube channel. I wanted to have a podcast. He wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to be a podcaster. All of that lined up. And my deepest fear was ending up unsuccessful. His deepest fear was ending up successful and alone. That's the reason we worked out as well as we did in the beginning. We were completely different, but I was willing to say, I'll do whatever it takes to stay in your corner. And he didn't want to be alone. So it worked out really, really, really well. But that's the thing, is under every relationship, there is a circumstance or multiple circumstances that actually make that happen. So I had to figure out pretty early on, what is the value that I bring to this relationship? Alan's value was his intelligence and his work ethic and his discipline and his organization and all that. And that has been a really challenging part, is figuring out and continuing to figure out, like, what's the value? What value do I bring? What value do you bring? I mean, it's a really, really challenging thing, because at the end of the day, a relationship is about adding value into somebody else's life, right? That's whatever value is. Value is contextual, right? So for us, value is personal development.
Yeah.
Right? You aren't expecting me to make you food. You don't, I'm not going to hit you up and give you the best bar suggestions in Boston. I'm not that guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's based on personal development. So yeah, it's been amazing. And I would not be the man I am today. It wouldn't be close if Alan wasn't in my life. We're really close, even though he says he's not a friend. Totally kidding. And we're building something really, really wonderful and really meaningful together. But there's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of honesty. There's a lot of ownership. You have to have a lot of humility with stuff like that. So it's the best thing in the world. And it's also created so much growth and necessity for both of us. And yeah, neither of us would be who we are today if it wasn't for the other person. I don't know how we would be different, but I know we would both be very different.
Yeah, it's always interesting how timing of things work too. Because you mentioned that y'all also both went to middle school and high school. And I don't think everyone has the pleasure of having that type of being able to meet people that deep in their life. And then also the balancing personality sets, where one is just super conscientious and another is more like relatable, like you, and how that just happens to fall in line and work perfectly. I love it, man. I think it's really cool, man.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. So this is another bomb question that I love asking guests. If that I want to hear from you is, if your life was a movie, what would be the key scenes?
Oh, jeez. Man, what would be the key scenes? I was at a party one time. Alan was actually at this party, and I approached these two girls because I was chasing women, and they just rejected me outright. And it was because I was short. That's what one of them said. I think they said like, "You're shorter than us. Why would we get with a guy like you?" That was always like, oh my God, that was my deepest fear. As somebody who's I'm not a tall man. I'm a short king, as they say. Short kings unite.
Yeah.
And that was like my deepest fear. That would be one of the things where it taught me a lesson. I just didn't know if I actually learned the lesson at that point. That would be one. Me sitting on the edge of a bed contemplating suicide, that would be the other. 2019, that would be one of those scenes where it goes like, each month goes by super fast and almost nothing changes except I look very much worse at the end of that year. It would be like one of those scenes.
Yeah.
The first big client I ever got who was going to pay us $1,200 a month, me crying in the elevator, leaving his office, texting my wife saying, "Hey, we made it." That would be, that was like such a win for me at that time. Those would be I think that me getting married would be a big one.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So a lot of it, honestly, this says something. A lot of it would be the most painful moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it would be the most painful moments. And then, I don't know, if you said what's like from the last year, what would it be? I don't know if I have a good one from the last year because now it's just more about the grind and now I'm fulfilled and we're quote unquote successful. So there's not a lot of, there's less ups and downs in terms of conflict. It's still as hard as it's ever been, just in different ways. So those are the ones that jump off the page.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have. Yeah,
it is.
The one with the one you mentioned about being rejected for being too short. Like, yeah, man, I can relate to that too. To be honest, man. Like, yeah, I remember in college. Cause I'm like average size. I'm like 5'9". I don't know how tall you are. Like
5'5". Like what you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I remember I went out with a girl, and I was trying to be with her, and same thing, bro. Like she literally said, "Oh man, I think you're cool, but if you were just taller, we would have we could have been together." And it's so stupid, like, because your height doesn't define you. But I remember to this day, it's been like 8 years ago, I'm still thinking about that moment. And to be honest, it even causes some insecurity about my height too. Sometimes, I've gotten a lot better with it, but sometimes I'm thinking, oh man, like, am I tall enough to be with a girl? And it's so stupid because like it's that's only one part of you, but it's like it becomes like you're low-key traumatized. Like I know, from time to time, if I'm talking to a girl who's either my height or taller than me, then the insecurity starts to happen. Like, oh man, like,
Well, it's the thing that helps is it's a preference, right? It's like, I think it's you are entitled to your preference, and I'm probably not statistically. That's helped me. Like, statistically speaking, I'm not the preference of most women.
Yeah,
I'm just not, because I think the average height of women in the U.S. is 5'5". Maybe it's 5'4".
Okay.
By definition, I am statistically the average and or shorter.
Yeah.
Luckily, my wife doesn't care. She wore heels to the wedding we went to the other night. She looked beautiful, and she was 3 inches taller than me. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it helps to understand it's a preference. That's one. And to your point, I don't know if you ever really get over an insecurity. I think you just make better friends with it. I'm still insecure. Alan is 6'2". My other best friend, Matt, is 6'1". When I take pictures with them, it looks like I'm with my stepfathers. And it's not a good look. Like, and what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
What are we gonna do? You either get okay with it, or you run from it forever. And I'm not a good runner. I'm not good at running.
Yeah. For people, I love what you said about, the insecurity never necessarily evaporates, but you make better friends with that. What does making better friends with that insecurity look like? I'm super curious. I think that's so great, man. And I think if we're all being honest with ourselves, whether or not we admit it, everyone has insecurities. I think some of the richest people in the world have financial insecurities because they feel like they never have enough,
Sure.
And obviously some people might have height insecurities. Some people might have emotional insecurities, and I think, I'm curious, like, how do people make better friends with or at least how have you made better friends with your personal insecurities?
One, admit it. There's something in power, like, because I've said that before, and people are like, no, there's a lot of women out there. I'm not saying there's not a lot. I'm saying there's statistically less.
Yeah.
That if I was 6 feet, it would be, the number would go up. It just would. Like, why? We don't have to lie about that.
Yeah.
So one is own it. Oh, just own it. Own the fact that, look, I am insecure about blank, and there are very few things that I can do to change it. You can either change your perception of something or you can change your behavior. There is very little I can do from an actual behavior perspective based on the fact that these are the circumstances. What I can do is I can change the perception and understand that sometimes I do get sad. Sometimes I do get sad. Sometimes I do understand that people are probably not, what's the right word? Probably not as respectful to me because of my height. When I walk in a room, I'm not a presence. People probably don't notice me. Am I as impactful as a speaker as I could be if I was taller? Don't know, right? Because maybe I'm not as much to look at. So I think you have to own it first. That's one. And then I think you have to mourn the loss of it.
Yeah. It's interesting, man. I think what you're saying is some powerful stuff. It actually reminds me, because I have some friends who are black, and sometimes we actually talk about insecurities or struggles of what we feel like is of being dark skinned or black, whether it's being profiled by cops or back in Boston, if we didn't get a job interview, we would sometimes wonder if it's black. And just like the same thing with the height, you will never really know. You don't, even if a girl rejects you, 9 times out of 10, they're not telling you, hey, you're short. That story is the same thing. But it's the same thing with being black sometimes. You're like, man, did I not get this opportunity if I'm black? Or am I not, I feel like I don't fit in because I'm the only black person in the group. You know what I'm saying? And just there's only so much you can control. But I really appreciate that, man, because I think a lot of people can grab some value from it, especially from admitting it first. So yeah, well, and Kevin, I've really appreciated this conversation, man. I feel like I can talk to you forever. And,
same, brother. Same.
And honestly, man, you're just you're very honest and you're very vulnerable, and I think you're very strong for that, man. I the way you just pour your heart onto each and every podcast, man. It's a beautiful thing, man. I hope you continue to be like that. Not like some of these other fake people who are just. I know you're not like that.
I'm not going anywhere. Like,
yeah,
this is it. This is what you get.
Kevin, you're a gem, bro. So, anyways, boss. So. For people who may like to connect with you or learn more about your work or and whatnot, how can people reach out to you? And is there anything you would like to promote?
Not really. No. One, I appreciate the kind words so much. Appreciate it. I would say Next Level University is the podcast. If you're somebody who's trying to get a little bit better every single day and you want somebody there to help you do it, we do an episode every day to help you do it. So Next Level University is the spot. And then my email is kevin@nextleveluniverse.com. Questions, comments, concerns. I do my own emails. If you're a podcaster and you need help, whatever, send me an email. I'm happy to add any value I can through the interwebs.
Awesome. Well, y'all heard it from Kevin. This has been a great conversation. Thank you for listening. And remember, everybody, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. And if God is for us, who can be against us? All right.